So we're going to cover our decision maker two meeting. We call it DM2. The purpose of this meeting is to walk the plan administrator through their benefit options that we're putting together based off of the decision maker one meeting that we ran. So in this meeting, we're prepared with the specific products, potentially bring some pricing, although it's not always necessary. We do want to focus more so on the value of what we're doing rather than the prices that the employees are spending, especially given the fact that the prices are so darn low for the employees via payroll deduction, that that's simply not what we're trying to focus on. Um, During the meeting here, I'll go through one of our office flyers. Typically in person, you would be handing these brochures across the table or wherever you're sitting with that plan administrator. So I'll do my best to simulate that. Um, but I do want to cover before jumping into the meeting itself some of the things that are really important to come prepared with. So first and foremost, I think having a Colonial Life folder is really important to have. I think the more physical things that you can have for the plan administrator, the better. Obviously, we don't want to overwhelm the plan administrator with too much information, but we do want to provide them with something that they can take back with them and review. Um, so on the left-hand side, we would put any sort of participation program, value-added service, so like a well card, telemedicine flyer, ID theft flyer, those sorts of things that come at no cost to the plan administrator. We call them complimentary value services. So that's what we want to have on one side. And on the other side of that folder, we can have things like a voluntary benefit portfolio that overviews all of the benefits that we can offer, any individual product flyers that you want to offer. And that's what you're going to see on my screen today are some of those individual product offerings. Any sort of an underwriting offer that you have for the group, I think is really nice to bring. So for example, if you have access to the diamond underwriting offer through your office, that's going to show that you have guarantee issue disability up to $4,000. It's going to show that you have guarantee issue whole life insurance up to $200,000 for anyone under the age of 50. Those sorts of things are really nice to be able to show a plan administrator so that they can see the value of what we're bringing to the table, having their employees go through their group to get the benefits. I like to have the DM1 sheet with me. So that discovery survey that we filled out on that decision maker one meeting, I like to have that on this second meeting so that I can reference it and make sure that I'm hitting on all the points that I need to. And then whether you have a laptop or a tablet, even your phone, any device where if pricing comes up, we can pull that information up quickly. I do want to come prepared to meetings with those quotes on hand, but I don't always show them. But I do think it's important that you have it ready in case it comes up. So like I said, we don't want to overwhelm the plan administrator with too much information. During this meeting, we're going to guide them through the value of Colonial Life, some history of the company on a very high level, how we operate on a district level, and then we'll go into everything else. Really important that we build some rapport from the DM1 meeting, maybe touch on some of the points that we hit on last week, and then jump into it from there. So I'll go ahead and do this role play here with Janice. Um, and at the end, hopefully you see that we've guided the plan administrator through a presentation that was easy to understand and drives value for the benefits that we're offering. So Janice, I really appreciate you taking a few minutes to sit back down with me today. I know you're busy and a lot of people call on you, so I really appreciate you giving me the time to discuss our programs with you. Before I
No
go,
problem.
yeah, but before I go into everything, um, what do you know, if anything, about Colonial Life?
I heard it's kind of like Affleck in the sense of where you guys have the disability and the accident for employees in case they get hurt and they can't work. It basically just like replaces their paycheck, right? Is that what this is?
Yeah, that's definitely a part of it, and I get that a lot. I love when people know about Aflac. They've done a really good job of making these types of benefits popular. Um, the difference is with us, you're going to typically see some savings because we're not paying money toward a NUC for advertising. And we really focus heavily on our service model. But Colonial's been around for a long time. It was founded back in 1939, been in business for over 85 years now. Colonial is a leader in VB, voluntary benefits. If you look at any organization that rates those sorts of industries, Colonial's got really high marks for customer satisfaction, financial strength, and payment of claims, which is obviously pretty important. But as a whole, today, Colonial has over 100,000 employers that we work with, over 5 million policyholders. And we work with a really wide range of people. So anywhere from UPS, Southwest Air, 42 of the 50 state governments work with Colonial Life, all the way down to, our 3-person local auto body shops. And what I always
Mhm.
love is that different clients use us for different reasons, because essentially we're 3 businesses in one when we, put it all together. Number one, we're a benefit communication company. So whether we're helping to support enrollments and educate employees on core health benefits or our own supplemental benefits, those are all things that we work with and can make sure that your employees understand. Um, we provide marketing prior to the enrollment to make sure that employees have a full understanding of the benefit package. Um, so really, like education is very important to us. Um, on that note, we're the largest enrollment firm in the country, which simply means that rather than having a salesperson explain the benefits to your employees, we actually have what's called a benefit counselor. Benefit counselors are trained in business ethics, and they'll sit with each of your employees to educate them and enroll them into their benefits. They go into the specific needs of each employee, so they're really guided through the enrollment in a comfortable way. And then this way too, post enrollment, you can know exactly who sat down and who didn't, to make sure that we're protecting you as a business owner. Um, and thirdly, we just happen to be a really good benefits provider. We're one of the largest benefit providers in the country. Typically can offer some pretty strong underwriting, which we'll go into, low rates, and again, designed for your employees, so that they can have access to some benefits. Does that all make sense?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Before getting into the benefits themselves, I know we talked a lot last week, um, kind of about what you're offering now. There are a few things that we're going to be able to do for you, regardless of participation in the Colonial benefits, which I was really excited to bring back. Um, First and foremost, we have an HR system. It's called Gather. It's proprietary to Colonial. Um, Gather's phenomenal because it's a resource for you to store employee data, manage onboarding, enroll in benefits. A lot of those HR tasks that you mentioned you don't have, we can actually provide to you for free.
Oh,
That's
wow.
something that
Okay.
you find beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And essentially what we would do is post enrollment, we'll sit down with you and we'll go through a Gather demo, and make sure that you have a full understanding of how that system works. So regardless of what the employees do, we do want to make sure, um, we got the okay to offer this to you. And again, appreciate you taking the time, but hopefully can drive some value there. The other things that we'll be able to do for your employees, number one, everyone that sits down with that benefit counselor during the open enrollment period will get what we call a well card. So a well card is think of it like a pharmaceutical benefit card. So like a GoodRx is another company that does something similar. But well card partners with CVS, Rite Aid, Walgreens, on prescription drugs and glasses. But they also partner with places like Lowe's and Home Depot. I actually have a client who saved a couple $100 on a shed, from Home Depot. So it's pretty neat.
Interesting.
My wife and I have used it for discounted movie tickets at Regal Cinemas. So they'll get that card, they'll get
Wow.
access right away. I actually have a card that you can take with you after today's meeting, and see where you can get some discounts. Um, the last
Okay.
thing I'll
Nice.
offer, I, I know you had mentioned that we're not currently offering, any sort of life insurance coverage. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, no, not yet.
So one of the things that we can do that's really creative is, um, we can offer a $10,000 accidental death and dismemberment benefit to every single employee when they sit down. They do not need to enroll in other benefits to get that benefit. All we would need to do is take beneficiary information. So as long as we sit with all of the employees, um, they'll be able to get that benefit. And as long as we do an open enrollment each year, they'll be able to continue to get that benefit at no cost. It,
Gotcha. Okay, nice.
is that something that might make sense to offer?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Um, great. So I'll get into the benefits themselves. Like I mentioned earlier, we don't use a salesperson to sit with your employees. We use the benefit counselors that are going to go through the specific needs of each person. One of the nice things about that benefit counselor is that post enrollment, your employees will have access to that benefit counselor. That is their point of contact from a service standpoint.
Mm,
So they're
okay.
going to have access to the benefit counselor, and then you're going to have access to our team on a quarterly basis when we stop in just to check in. Obviously, throughout the year, if something comes up, we're here to help you. But we're also going to check in quarterly. And the reason we like to do that is, there's a lot of benefits that are being offered. And what we find is that oftentimes employees might forget that, oh, they went to the doctor and had that wellness checkup. Well, a lot of our benefits have a wellness claim attached to it. So we want to make sure that we're taking care of the employees in that fashion.
Hmm.
And then obviously too, if you have new hires or things like that, we can certainly come in and enroll them on a quarterly basis. Um,
Nice. So I don't have to wait just once a year like with major medical.
correct, correct. Um,
Okay.
so as far as the benefits go, Colonial to me exists because of major medical. You mentioned that you have a plan that does have a deductible. Typically, it's a high deductible plan. And I think the unfortunate thing with health insurance is that it's designed to pay the provider, not the person who actually is seeking treatment.
Mm,
Problem with that is that we then have, at least what I think is the problem, is we have all these out-of-pocket expenses. And the
right.
longer I do this and the more things I see, the less I like that phrase out of pocket because I think it trivializes what people really go through when they seek medical attention. Um, this is a crazy one. So every couple of years, Harvard actually does a study about medical expenses. The latest
Hmm.
study showed that a little bit over 62% of all personal bankruptcy in the United States can be traced directly to an injury or illness. The most
Wow.
frightening part of that, it gets worse. The most frightening part of that is 78% of those people that went bankrupt had health insurance.
Wow. That's weird. Okay. Crazy.
So to me, health insurance isn't enough for most people today. And if you have a high
Mm,
deductible plan and employees have to pay out of pocket to
hmm.
satisfy that, that could potentially be an issue depending on what someone's going through. Um, Another crazy one that we've put together is about 50% of working Americans do not have $1,000 in their savings account.
Mm,
Those are
wow.
working Americans. So for us, we really want to make sure that they're protected if they need to satisfy that deductible so they can protect themselves and their families. Um,
Right.
Now, I know we talked last week, I asked if would anyone come to you for money, um, if they couldn't work for an extended period of time. But I guess I'll ask you, like, if someone on your team couldn't work for 6 months, how would they
Oh,
continue to pay their bills?
that I don't know. Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah, so that's this. These are all reasons why our group exists. The policies are guaranteed renewable for life. They're portable with no changes in coverage or costs. The benefits are going to pay regardless of what other insurance you might have, and that money goes directly to the employees. So the money from these
Mm,
policies can be used towards deductibles, co-pays, other expenses. But honestly, most of the time it goes towards things like gas, utilities, groceries, your mortgage. Um,
right.
so like our goal is to educate employees just to make sure they understand how their major medical works, but also understand that these benefits are available. Um, a lot of times this is when I hear that, I don't think my team will be interested. Um, as sad as it is to say, just because we know how employees can be sometimes, but we found that um, after people sit down with a benefit counselor, about 80% of people actually end up getting some sort of a benefit. Um,
Yeah, makes sense once they're
Yeah.
educated.
Yeah, I mean, we hear if you were to ask people who wants to buy more insurance, the answer is going to be no. But what I love about the way we approach it is we'll make sure they get that complimentary life insurance benefit when they sit down. They'll get that pharmaceutical discount card. And it's low pressure. We this is coming from you as a plan administrator and a company. So we want to
Mhm.
make sure that people are comfortable in the options that they get. Um, Now I'll go through the benefit options with you. Based on what we talked about last week, seems like there's a really good opportunity to offer some supplemental benefits that work outside of your major medical. So I'll walk through these with you in some detail. Um, and obviously, if you have any questions throughout, let me know. But the first benefit that I'd like to be able to offer is our accident plan. And essentially, to me, this is like our deductible protection. So this one works on and off the job for either an individual or a whole family. Let's say an employee was to get hurt off the job, or in this case, let's say an employee's child got hurt at the playground. So the example that we use here is Milo running and tripping on the playground. Well, if you hurt your hand, there's going to be an urgent care visit, there's going to be a diagnostic procedure, there's a laceration that needs to be treated, there's medical equipment, and then any sort of follow-up doctor's visits. So in this case, the family gets $125 for the emergency treatment, $40 for the x-ray, $30 for for the laceration, $475 for broken hand, another $40 for the splint, and $165 for the follow-up treatment. So in total, the family is getting paid $875, and that money is going right to them. So I love this. I have this plan for my family. To me, it's not a matter of if my kid gets hurt. Unfortunately, it's when.
Of
Um,
course.
but the nice thing about this one is that regardless of whether or not you've got one kid or five kids, it's the same price for a family. This
Nice.
is a guarantee issue benefit, so there's no medical questions that need to be answered during time of enrollment. Do you have any questions on the accident plan?
No, I like that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. The and this does have a whole list of payouts here that you can certainly review. I'll skip around here a little bit because I know that last week we talked about offering that disability protection. You mentioned some workers' comp claims that you've had. So essentially, our disability coverage is going to work on and off the job. So if an employee gets hurt at work, they can get disability coverage. They'll get paid half of the benefit amount because workers' comp's going to kick in as well. If they get hurt off of work, they'll get the full disability coverage, which goes up to just over 60% of someone's income. But essentially, if you're out for an extended period of time due to a covered injury or sickness, this will pay. We can have this payout for employees as quickly as 0 days for an accident and 7 days for a sickness. One of the nice things is, you mentioned that you have some sick and vacation time. We can customize how quickly those get paid out based on sick time that employees have accrued in case
Mhm.
they want to maybe save some money on this disability plan. It's very inexpensive for a disability plan. It's based on age and income. But we can customize that so that employees are, they really shouldn't be spending any more than what they make in an hour over the course of the week for this benefit. Uh,
Oh, okay.
does this policy make sense, the disability plan?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. The key with the disability and the accident, and just to give you an idea as we go through these other benefits, they can work hand in hand, right? So if I was to get hurt off of the job, let's say I was playing a sport in my men's league and I got hurt and I couldn't work for a month because of my broken leg, I could file an accident claim and I could file my disability claim and get paid on both of those things. So they can work hand in hand.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Mhm.
Good to know.
The other benefits I'll cover. Number one, life insurance. I think life insurance is so important, especially if you're not offering anything now. This gives employees the option to get some life insurance at a low rate that's portable. We offer both whole and term life insurance. Are you familiar with the differences between the two?
I've heard of them, but no, I don't know what the difference is.
without going into too much detail, think of whole life insurance as you own that policy, and think of term life insurance as you rent that policy. When you rent a term life policy, it can last up to 30 years depending on your age. It's typically going to be less expensive than a whole life policy because you're renting it, not owning it. So it's made to cover expenses at a low rate. Things like a mortgage, car payment, student loans, for example. Your whole life insurance coverage, you own that coverage. So it actually builds up a cash value over the course of that policy. The price you pay today is the price you're going to pay in 30 and 60 years from now. So it lasts your whole life. But typically, because of that cash value buildup and because it lasts your whole life, it's going to be a little bit more expensive. So we know employees tend to have preferences of one or the other, or maybe both. So we would offer both to your employees. We do offer this on a guarantee issue basis for anyone under the age of 50, up to $200,000 of whole life insurance. Anyone up to age 80 can get whole life insurance guarantee issue up to $75,000.
Gotcha. Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions on the life insurance?
Now, the benefit bank you were telling me about before, would that also go towards life insurance or just the two other coverages?
So we can structure that however you'd like. Our systems won't actually allow for a benefit bank to go toward the life insurance. Um,
Oh, okay.
but certainly if you're looking to do something like that, um, we can put something together with our office post enrollment so that it's pieced out a certain way on those deductions for you.
Hmm.
It's a great
Okay. Good to
question.
know.
The other benefits I'll go through, um, we got cancer and critical illness coverage. And so cancer coverage works very similar to an accident plan in the sense that it's an indemnity plan, meaning it's going to pay cash benefits based on treatment. So, for example, lodging will be covered to an extent, screenings, second opinions, surgeries, and recovery. Those are all part of our cancer plan. It also includes a $10,000 initial diagnosis benefit. So if you're to be diagnosed with any internal cancer, this would cover that. And on top of that, we also offer a critical illness plan. And so I think these can go really well hand in hand. But essentially, a critical illness plan is going to cover, I consider it like a living life policy almost. You know, if I was to have a heart attack, stroke, kidney failure, anything major like that, this critical illness
Mhm.
plan will provide a cash benefit for the employee, which they elect the amount of that cash benefit upon time of enrollment. But we can do a cash benefit of anywhere from $5,000 to $75,000. We have on this one what's called post-enrollment guarantee issue, meaning that as long as 3 employees sign up for this benefit during the open enrollment period, we won't need to go through any sort of health questions for employees to get that benefit up to $20,000 in coverage. Does that make
Oh,
sense?
right. Right. Yeah, that's nice.
So any questions on that or any of the other benefits? I know we went through a lot today.
So would I be offering every single thing or just picking and choosing what you guys offer? How does that work for the employees?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's really up to you how you want to approach it. There's a couple different strategies we could take. So one strategy would be to offer everything, um, and have the employees pick and choose what they want. The only reason you might not do that is if you're fearful of offering too much at once. We certainly don't want to overwhelm your employees with options. Now,
Mhm.
regardless, we'll do pre-enrollment communication prior to the enrollment starting. So, they should have a good idea going into the enrollment, what's being offered. So we could offer everything, or you could say, hey, let's focus on, 3 or 4 of these benefits and maybe build it up in the second year.
Mm,
You have a preference
okay.
of which
No, that makes
direction
more
you'd like.
sense. Yeah, just get them started with a little bit. That way they introduce you to them, they understand what it is, and then next year we can offer more.
Yeah, I'd say, is there anyone, on site, or by on site, I mean anyone at the company who specifically has a need for critical illness or cancer coverage?
I know we have a few elderly, not elderly, but older employees in their 50s and 60s that obviously have health concerns, and so they might be interested. But the younger demographic, I would say no.
So maybe what we do is we offer everything, but I know our benefit counselors well. They will position the critical illness and cancer coverages more to those that are on the older end of the spectrum there. Um,
Hmm.
so that I don't want someone to miss out on a benefit that might make sense for them. And this sounds like if the critical illness makes sense for a few people, because there's no participation requirement for them to enroll, it might make sense to offer it.
Hmm. Okay. So we can offer some to certain demographics and some to other demographics, or you just still offer everything to everyone?
We would offer everything, but really what it comes down to is when the employee sits down with a benefit counselor and they're talking about family history, all those private things. And these will be one-on-one conversations. And because of HIPAA regulations, we want to make sure those are private and safe conversations. Um,
Hmm.
During those conversations, if something comes up where it seems like there's a need for critical illness coverage, the benefit
Hmm.
counselor will certainly be going into critical illness coverage versus,
Hmm.
a 25-year-old who doesn't have any family history of cancer or critical illness, doesn't see a need for it. They'll know before the enrollment that it's available for them. It
Hmm.
might be something that's brought up briefly in that enrollment meeting as a
Hmm.
confirmation of, hey, just want to make sure there's no need for this benefit here right now.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's still on like the tally list that they receive, but per the benefit counselor coming in, they can sway them to what they really specifically would need coverage for.
Yeah, yeah. And there's really a couple ways we typically do our benefit meetings. So we can either do a group presentation where, during that time we set up in like a conference room or something, go through the benefits in an open forum. The only downside to that is it obviously takes everyone away from work at the same time. We try to typically
Mm,
avoid that. Um,
right.
what we typically do is we set an enrollment day, or probably in your case with 60 employees, a couple of days, and each of the
Hmm.
employees will go through, they'll have their 20-minute time slot to meet with the benefit counselor. Um, we'll provide the marketing materials prior so that the employees can take information home and discuss it with their significant others. Obviously, the last thing we want to do is rush employees to make a decision. Um,
Hmm.
but the idea being that they sit down with the benefit counselor, they learn about their options, they can enroll on the spot if they want. If they need to take information home, they certainly could. But regardless, when they sit down, they'll get that well card and they'll get that complimentary AD&D program. So we solve the need for that life insurance right there. Um,
Hmm.
Now, are you looking to sponsor this partially, or do you want to set this up as employee paid completely?
No, yeah, I like the idea, just like with major medical, we do a portion towards from not just employee funded, but business funded, obviously for a tax write-off, of course, but it's just also so the employees don't have to worry about so much cost.
Yeah, so just to give you an idea of cost, I mentioned the disability, you shouldn't be spending any more than what you make in an hour over the course of the week in the benefit. Um, Accident plans for an individual are anywhere from $4 to $5 a week. Life insurance can be extremely inexpensive. It can be a little more pricey if you're older and looking for a lot of coverage. So it'll vary slightly. What I see a lot of groups do, and you certainly don't need to tell me today what you want to do exactly, but a lot of groups will give anywhere from $20 to $30 per week or per deduction, something to that tune. Um, Really, it's up to you to decide what's in your budget. And then, of course, we could pre-tax the benefits as well if you're doing them as employer sponsored. So think of it either as we do the benefit bank and you have a specific amount, or you could also decide to sponsor a specific benefit. So you could say, for example, we'll cover everybody's individual accident plan at the $4 or $5 per week. If they want it for their family, maybe that comes out of their pocket. So
Mm-hmm.
we can structure it a few different ways, but I would say before we have the enrollment,
Hmm.
go ahead and, think about that and we could certainly build that into the system. Um, Now, I think to give you enough time to obviously think about that and make sure the employees are well educated, I'd like to push the enrollment out if you're okay with it. Probably not do it next week, but the week after. And the reason
Okay.
being that that gives us enough time to make sure that pre-enrollment communication can go out to the employees. So we'll do a flyer. We can also educate through a digital postcard, and we have like a benefit learning website that's really helpful. Are your employees responsive to email?
Most are, but some of the
Okay.
older ones forget to check.
Yeah. So we'll do a combination. I think having the flyers on site and then doing the email with the flyers attached and the links will be really helpful. So there's just more ways that they can see that the enrollment's happening.
Mhm.
Um, so that being said, what does the week of the 23rd look like for you? We're looking at 2 days because we'll need to sit with every employee. Um, and if they're 20-minute meetings, I think going, starting, you tell me, are you guys usually in the office around 8 o'clock?
Yeah, yeah. Let's get here by 9. So if we need to start at 9, that's fine too.
Okay. And we'll have, you mentioned there's 20 employees that come in later, 10 to 20 employees. Does that shift change around like 5 or 6 o'clock?
It's a little later, more like 10.
Oh, okay. We can have benefit counselor on site right at 10 o'clock at night too, and they can make sure to sit with those employees as well. That's not a problem for us.
Okay, so you guys do work nights then?
Yeah, whatever you need. We've got a couple groups that have 3 shifts, and so we do our counselors might not always love it, but we'll make it work for sure.
Okay,
So 8 o'clock start. So the 23rd, does that work for the first day?
right.
All right. So we'll plan for the 23rd and 24th. Post enrollment, anyone that we miss, we call this a cleanup. I'm sure someone's going to be on vacation, someone's going to be sick. We obviously
Hmm.
want to give them the opportunity to enroll into their benefits. So they'll also get access to the marketing material, and they'll have access to a QR code where they can schedule a meeting with a benefit counselor virtually after the fact. So
Oh, good. Okay.
yeah, so after the in-person enrollment, I'll share that with you to share with your team,
Mhm.
because we want to make sure we're getting people in person, rather than virtual. So, um, any other questions or concerns for me on any of that?
So does anything happen before the enrollment when your enrollers come down? Do we have another meeting? Like you have somebody else come out to the site and obviously you said drop off flyers, but do you talk to the group or the employees at all about what's coming up or you just hand out the flyers?
We certainly could if you wanted to do some sort of a group meeting, then we could set up another group meeting prior to the enrollment dates. I'd be happy to do that. Um, really it's however you feel like we can best educate your team.
Hmm.
If you think that the flyers and the um, benefit information and the website's enough, then great. But if you want to do another pre-enrollment, then we'd be more than happy to come down.
Gotcha. Okay, that was it then. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Well, as far as implementation goes of this, it's really straightforward. Only takes a few minutes. Um, I'll have to gather some basic information from you, like official company name, a lot of the information I already have from our last meeting. But you'll get an email from me.
Hmm.
It's an automated email from Colonial that requires signature on your end, just to agree that, we're going through this process. Um, so I'll go ahead and take you through that. Otherwise, no, I think we're all set for the enrollment. Be on the lookout for some information from me,
Hmm.
and we'll go from there.
Perfect. Thank you.
Nope, not a problem. Thanks for your time today.